Welcome to the next episode of the Life Lit podcast. I'm joined today by an American, of all things, in Australia. He's a fellow actor, a voice artist, a stand-up comedian, and an incredible dancer from what I've seen. Welcome, Mikey Joaquin. What's going on, bro?
It feels nice to have someone say my name properly.
Yeah. You know why I learned it? I learned it from Joaquin Phoenix.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I was sick of it on Joaquin. My dad keeps saying Joaquin. I was like, that's not the name, dude. What are you doing?
Dude, it got so bad that when I get introduced for comedy sets, if they don't know me, they always get it wrong. Or
Really?
sometimes they don't want to fuck it up, so they just don't say it.
Let's get Mikey.
Yeah. No, the last gig, straight up, the guy was just like, I know I'm going to fuck up this last name, so give it up for Mikey. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. Are you going to come up with a stage name, or are you just going to rock Mikey Joaquin?
Nah, I feel like it's similar to Joaquin Phoenix. It's like if you, because I do get the need for that people are just like, oh, just something that's easy for them to remember. But it's also like, if you struggle to remember my name, then you're going to remember me.
Yeah, you're going to think about it. Yeah,
it's
as
like,
well.
That guy, his last name, I couldn't fucking remember, but I know his face. Like,
Yeah.
And then eventually, I know eventually in time, I will be well known for one of the many things I'm doing.
Yeah.
In which case, then it will go from there. Similar to like Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't imagine his whole life. He never changed it. It's not like people are like, Joaquin Phoenix, Joaquin Phoenix. But
That's not a bad point.
The part that's really funny, though, is that the difference, though, is because he's white. And, or at least white passing. I think he's some sort of mix of things. But whereas I'm properly Asian looking. So what happens is they'll look at me and then they'll look down at the paper. And then they'll look again. And I can see the wheels turning in their head. They're just like, that doesn't look Chinese. Like, Jiao Quan. Like,
That makes me laugh. That reminds me of Tom Segura. Like, his last name sounds Asian and he's Spanish. And he's white. Like, it's great.
Yeah. Actually, it does. Actually, I never thought of it that way. It does kind of look like it could be like Japanese or something.
Yeah.
Like Segura. But it's actually because he's like Peruvian or something.
Yeah. He had a whole comedy bit.
Oh,
about,
dude,
like,
I love his shit. The thing for me, like him and Bert Kreischer are just like
they're so good together.
Yeah, it's such a good like balance because Bert Kreischer is just chaos.
Yeah,
and then Tom Segura is like what's it called, like cynical, like logic though.
Yes. Yeah.
He's just like, this is fucking crazy. No, it isn't. Like,
no, it's not crazy. You're an idiot. Yeah. It's fantastic.
It's crazy. Did you watch the roast of Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Oh, Nikki Glazier,
dude, she was amazing. It is such a weird thing.
I was so in awe.
Dude, how good was Tony Hinchcliffe?
Dude, I don't know why
Slayed.
Yeah, I mean, because I knew the name, but I only seen a lot of his stuff from the roast battles.
Yeah,
that
from
he
Kill
hosts.
Tony.
Yeah, from Kill Tony. Yeah, so I didn't actually watch a lot of his actual stand up before. But I'm like, fuck, he's a weapon.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of his stand up. All I've seen is the roast. His stand up is top quality.
Yeah, he can be vicious.
Oh yeah, but that's hilarious.
It is, but it's like when you're, it's like what I'm finding, or as I'm learning, it's like the meaner it is, the better it has to be.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like, it has to be a solid joke. Can't just be like, you're shit, you're a bad dad. You can't just say those things. There's the art and the craft is how you phrase it.
Yeah,
and how you get people to think it's one thing, and then it's actually this.
Yeah,
like,
unless you're going for like the humor of no one would ever think this is like an actual thought.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
you're going.
Yeah,
it's what's the word? Like, just it's way over the top.
Yeah,
like, obviously I don't think this.
Yeah, which is what Anthony Jeselnik is much like that with his one-liners. Dude, he's a savage.
He is. I can't. Because the power of, I'm reading this book about unlocking your comedy genius, and it's I'll show you later. But it's amazing though. If this guy's put it down, it's something Bloom.
Yeah.
I feel bad.
You can look it up. No, it's fine.
Okay, look it up.
We got time.
But he just
pull it
breaks,
up, Jamie.
He breaks.
No. I wish I had a Jamie.
We'll find you a Jamie next time.
Yeah.
But he breaks everything down into just amazing. For me or any people that like logical learning, it's just actionable terms, simple actionable terms. Finding Your Comedy Genius by Adam Bloom. He's a British comedian.
Yeah,
and he's really great. I looked up his stuff. He's hilarious. And so going back to Anthony Jeselnik, it's just the skill it takes to condense all of those thoughts into just 2 lines.
Yeah,
the setup and the punchline is so hard, at least for me, because I'm a waffler. I think
it'd be hard with everything.
Yeah,
with anyone coming from that. 'Cause I can't imagine that was his first strain of comedy. Like, I would imagine he found that over time. I don't think that would have been his straight up.
I don't know,
first
man.
thing.
Some people because it's different. Like, I wasn't cracking jokes my whole life. I kind of, my thing is more kind of like observational comedy. It's like, oh, America's like this, Australia's like this. It's fucking weird. Whereas some people, they just think those things, and it's kind of like with acting. I find that in every art form, you kind of have a thing that you're predisposed to excel at.
Yeah. Okay.
And then if you become really good at that thing, it's usually because that's kind of already was in your wheelhouse, and you've just, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like if, for example,
like you've applied the hard work to the skill you already had, or the natural talent you already had,
or something that you've just kind of built over time. You know, people are like, "Oh my God, he came out of nowhere." It's like, no, they didn't. They had some sort of something in their life that predisposed them towards this thing already. Like, let's say, for example, Bianca Del Rio, a drag queen, insult comedian, and just hilarious. Just the way she can come up with really good zingers. At your expense, but obviously it's still within reason, and it's not too harsh or anything. But she just comes up with it. But it's like her whole life she's had to be like that, and so that was kind of the natural comedy vein that she leaned into.
Okay, yeah.
And so like similar, like when people are like, oh, it's like, wow, you came out of nowhere with all the voice acting stuff. It's like, no, I've been doing accents and impressions and reading stories to kids my whole life.
Yeah.
So I didn't just go from zero and then suddenly be like, oh, I'm gonna do all this, and then just like that's those things take time to develop. Same thing with dance. If I wanted to get into another style of dance, I'm not starting from zero. I'm starting from you
know how their body moves.
Yeah, exactly. I already have certain skills that will, and that's what I like about being a multi hyphenate, which is just a douchey way of saying my ADHD gives me hobbies.
Yeah.
Is that you can kind of see how the Matrix weaves the parallels.
Down, Andrew Tate.
The parallels.
Anyway,
I say the Matrix because I don't want to explain further. I'm just like the holistic, everything is how everything parallels.
Yeah.
So skills you have from one art form can parallel to another, whether it's through how you network or how you or just understanding that every art form appreciates light and shadow, light and shade, and dynamics. Everyone likes dynamics. It makes for a more compelling or entertaining performance, regardless of what the art form is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So shit like that.
Yeah. So dancing, you've obviously been doing that a long, long time. Is that something you did like as a kid? Like, how did you find your way into dance?
Oh, the funny thing is, I actually wanted to be an actor first. Okay. But in high school, because undiagnosed ADHD in high school, I could not remember my lines.
Yeah, right.
I took a drama class and I could not remember my lines. And I kind of, because it was hard to remember, I would just put it off. And then we had a final exam, I want to say my junior year, so year 3 of high school. And I couldn't remember my lines. And we were on stage, and it was just so mortifying, because then my whole team who had been practicing had to just sit with me and read the lines. They didn't really get to act. And so it was such a shameful, mortifying, negative experience. I was just like, maybe the public speaking isn't for me. And so then I leaned into dance. And around that time was also when the film You Got Served came out. Everyone has these cool stories of like, yeah, me and my friends, we just had it in our bodies. Like, no, it was a movie for me.
Yeah.
Marcus Houston and Omarion.
Yeah. But that's the same with like me and a lot of the other guys from the army. Like, we all watched war movies growing up. We're like, I want to.
There's a fantasy that they sell to you, and you're just like, oh, that could be me.
Yep.
And that was so. I had some friends that lived a street down that knew that we're doing breakdancing and stuff. So I just went out of my way to be like, hey, you guys do that? I'd love to train sometime. And they let me come over. And so that's how I started. I started off breakdancing, but they all went to a different school than I did.
Okay.
So I then eventually tried bringing it to my school and started a breakdancing club.
Yeah.
Which was four people, just me and 3 other dudes that also breakdanced at the time. It was cool. But it's just, it just takes a lot of time and energy, which you do have. Which I think that's the benefit when you're a kid, is you don't have other shit.
Yeah.
At worst, you have a part-time job.
Yeah, and that's not even until you're later in high school anyway, 14, 15.
Exactly. And I started around 15, 16.
Yeah.
And then it was cool though, because I think around that time, so I was a very nerdy kid. I was into video games, anime, all that shit. I had a bulk.
Nerdy.
At the time, they were, and the ones that I was playing, like Pokemon and stuff. But obviously, our generation, the nerds are cool now.
Yeah. Look at me now, Mom.
Look at me now, success. But I had like a bowl cut, glasses. My mom would dress me in like Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah.
Or do you know what Gymboree is?
I've heard the name.
It's
the word. Sorry.
It's a brand of children's clothing. It's very brightly colored and stuff. So,
yeah, right.
So yeah, she would just dress me very like preppy, like Abercrombie and Fitch kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Anyways, but like all the cool kids were wearing like Echo and Fubu and stuff like that. So not until I didn't have my glow up moment till about that time. So that same time I started getting into dancing. I got my first part-time job. I was working at a flea market.
Yeah.
And I got colored contacts. I started spiking my hair.
Yeah.
Buying my own clothes. And then out of nowhere,
the spike of the hair is what gets me. Was it the front, the vertical straight up the forehead?
It was. I could show you. It was crazy, but it was just like because that was the time NSYNC was in. Yeah. But I didn't want to dye my hair. So it was pretty much just that kind of spiky hair. That intermediary anime kind of spiky hair that everyone had at the time. But yeah, I think that was also so what happened was I had my glow up moment, and then suddenly girls started noticing me. Yeah. Because of the dancing. It's because your personality didn't change. Yeah. But it's just that now that you do the things that people find attractive, and I was a dancer now. There was people were willing to see me. Yeah. So that was a big kind of motivator. And I think when you're young, for a lot of kids, it's like, yeah, this is great, but also chicks dig it. Yeah. So I did that, and that was a big moment for me because I finally had social value. And so that drove me to pursue dance further and further. Just because that was the first time I felt special. Yeah. As a person, because before you were always just kind of, also because I grew up in a very a mostly white community, and being like a skinny short Asian kid, I wasn't good at sports, so I didn't have much social value in any sense. I had friends though. I still had friends, and so that wasn't an issue. It was just more that self-esteem wise, it was really tough. And you had to either avoid bullies or find a way to befriend them or make yourself seem unthreatening. Yeah. So that way it was like you weren't worth their time kind of thing. Yeah. Like they wouldn't get what they wanted out of you because you were boring to bully kind of thing. Yeah. But once I hit high school, none of that was an issue anymore because I was cool now. Yeah. Just out of nowhere from like 0 to like 80 kind of thing. It was weird. It was
interesting.
It was real. Yeah. And so it was such a stark and sudden change that I was like, oh wow, well, I'm gonna just do this. Yeah. And then my grades dropped like immediately because I finally valued something more than my parents' approval. Yeah. Was like social approval. Of girls. And the attention of girls. That was very nice. But then anyways, so from there I just kept pursuing it through college. Even to the point where I was on multiple dance crews and teaching dance, and it got to the point where my dad had to remind, like, look, I know you really want to do this, and that's great. Just graduate with something.
Yeah.
Just to have something,
to
some sort of
on.
degree. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad he did that because it actually did pay off. So I did. So I was dancing. I didn't even graduate. Or I did graduate. I didn't walk though because I had a competition the same day.
Oh, you mean you didn't do the stage walking?
I didn't. I didn't walk at my own graduation.
Yeah.
And my mom was really cut, but she was also. But my dad was just like, "Well, this is what he wants to do." She said, "Well, just take the pictures then."
Yeah.
So I went to Walmart and got this tiny, just so it fit the frame.
Yeah.
So it was just tiny little thing with the hat.
Yeah.
So it looks like I was there, but I fucking wasn't. No one.
That's great.
Nobody saw me. And then from there I got on. I auditioned and got onto a Las Vegas show.
Oh wow.
I never told you this?
No.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it all started for me, really, because anyone starts an art form and they just kind of do it, but that was when I was professional, so it was 2010, 2011.
Jeez.
Prior to that, I'd done other things like I danced for Radio Disney locally, and but before that was just dance crews, competitions, battles.
So dance battles like a real thing? I thought.
Oh, dude, absolutely. That's,
So I know nothing about the dance world other than
to not bore your listeners, but like a big essentially. So the four elements of hip hop are graffiti, DJing, emceeing or rapping now, and then b-boying, which is breakdancing.
Okay.
And so that was back in it kind of like piggybacked off of like the disco era. Yeah. And any OGs listening to this, I don't know why you would, but if you were, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But around that era, like the disco era, it all started in like New York because, Black and Latino people were kind of being pushed into inner city areas and stuff. So they didn't have a lot of things to feel good about themselves. There's high crime, gangs, drugs, all the things that are being kind of put in their vicinity to keep them from excelling and enjoying life. And so when that kind of thing happens, people are always going to find ways to express themselves and feel good about themselves. And so those four art forms were born in that space from those circumstances, and breakdancing was one of them. It was because at the time, like when you go to songs will have the break in the song where no one's rapping, no one's singing. It's just the music going over and over and over. And it was this beautiful time in American history in terms of the arts, because every party would have all four elements there. You'd have dudes, graffitiing like on buildings or whatever, but maybe it's not happening in the club, but you had an MC, rapping and that art form, which, then goes into things like spoken word and all that. And then you had the DJ, like the what do you call it? The genesis of DJing as we know it was also kind of derived from that era. And then when the DJs and the rappers would stop, they'd have the break, and then that's when the b-boys would get down. So everyone had their time to shine. Yeah. And b-boying is a combination of both African and Latin dance moves, martial arts, gymnastics, and these were things they just made up. Now there's so many moves, but at the time, everybody that was like really into it had their one signature move, and that was their move. And then over time, they would get shared and taught, kind of like an oral tradition, except it was taught to people in their dance crew and stuff like that. And then eventually it became foundation. So it's just like anything else. You had these people that originated all these amazing moves, and then it would eventually get shared around. And then all of a sudden, this is the standard. These are the standard things that we do now. And the most incredible part is that they made the choice to substitute dance battles for gang violence. So gang leaders had gathered together and decided we need to stop killing each other. So if we have beef, there are a number of ways we can resolve it instead. Yeah. And they chose dance battles.
Wow.
Which is crazy. On paper, it makes no sense. Yeah. But that's what makes it so amazing, that these dudes that shoot and kill each other and all these things just decide, you know what, we're just going to sell it this way. And that's what felt right, and everyone agreed. And that's kind of how dance battles it started. I mean, then it became, at first it kind of just became like in the streets as a way of conflict resolution. Yeah. And then eventually, as it picked up, and then it became more about competitions. And then America as a whole picked it up. And so the whole hip hop term is actually something used to, in a way, it just mushes it all together, even though it's not the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really awesome. But a lot of what we appreciate now as hip hop is actually, in a way, well, not in a way, it's directly stolen from that culture. So when when you hear about like African Americans having beef about like what's cool today, popular culture, it is massively, if not predominantly, in thanks to what they started, that whole movement they started, and that was what in like from the 60s onward, like it really was in vogue around the 80s and 90s, like 70s, 80s, 90s, but like they're the originators of that stuff is still around. So they were there when there was none of this. It was just disco, and then all of a sudden hip hop this and hip hop that, and like so all of that culture, all this, even the way that we talk now is so derivative of from Black and Latino culture, Black trans culture, like all this like yes queen and all that. That's from like Black trans and Black LGBTQ culture, because at the same time that the b-boys were doing their thing, because at the time the nation was still very like homophobic and stuff. LGBTQ, gay, trans people, they had their own movement happening parallel but separately. And that's where all the voguing and the balls and the drag queens and all that stuff was happening in Harlem, something like this. It was in the similar, in the East Coast, the similar areas, but they so it's just so this all this strife that was coming down on this group of people in this one area, and all this amazing art has come out of that, and now now it's like they're all national, international, global phenomenons. So like, and that's why I always give thanks to the African American community, because if not for what they invented and the struggles they go through, majority of my life wouldn't be what it is, and a lot of what we appreciate wouldn't exist.
Yeah. Oh, they're definitely the coolest people.
Dude, I
like
can't lie. I can't tell you, every time my Black friends, they'll be dancing with like an artist and they'll come visit, they'll be around and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm in town, you should come watch the show, whatever.
Yeah.
Like a friend of mine, he's half Black. Him and this other guy I know were dancing for 50 Cent, and they came out here. So me and my wife got to watch 50 Cent. He's great, man. He's still got it. He's amazing.
Oh,
and then we just caught up, and there's just a flavor that Black people have.
Yeah.
That I just miss.
It's so weird. It's like an ingrained rhythm. Like I don't think I've ever come across an African American person who can't like dance or have like some musical ability, or they're a sports but like
I think
it's better at everything.
I think also because like even like historically there's like I was saying, like where it's not so much like a genetic thing. We don't have like necessarily genetic this is my belief. I always believe nurture over nature. So when people are like, oh, you're such a good dancer, you're so gifted, it's like, no, I grew up around dance and music. My like Asian, like a Filipino parties is everyone's always playing music and dancing, and so as you're a kid, you're a sponge, you soak all that in. And then from my understanding, lots of Black cultures are similar. Dance and music is innately part of a lot of African cultures and things. So so like if you see, like if you ever, like I've met Black people that can't dance, and it's usually because they just didn't grow up around it. But it's not like some, like if you pick a Black dude and then he's like you say he got adopted by white people, and then he just suddenly just like knows how, like I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm just like I feel like it's more of, it's like it's a nurture thing. It's a cultural what do you call it? It's all about culture. So same thing, like I think white people can dance. I don't think there's like necessarily like a huge genetic predisposition. If a white kid grew up around people dancing all the time, then they're quite likely to be able to dance when the time comes, or if they decide to pursue that. There are plenty of amazing white dancers.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's I think it's a combination of both. Because there's definitely going to be people like my family, for instance. My dad, he did a bit of touring when he was younger as a singer. So me and my sisters are quite musical, and
musically inclined.
Musically inclined, like we can sing. But mum is tone deaf, no rhythm. But like without if both of them are like that, I don't think like there's some aspect of it that I think you can learn, but I think we would be well behind the eight ball. I think having that genetic predisposition towards it makes it easier to pick that kind of stuff up. It's kind of so you would still need to have it around, but like if you grew up in absolute silence and complete absence of it, I don't think having that genetic predisposition is enough to do it. But having that with the nurture, I think you kind of need both to be really good at something.
Oh yeah, I think it's one of definitely in your formative years. That's what really shapes you. From my experience with kids, and my degree was in child development, which was not a degree you can directly take to any job, but at least it solidified my knowledge on the kind of just like the basic how children develop. And
why did you pick that?
Well, I knew that if I didn't become a professional dancer, that I enjoyed teaching kids, because that was my second job, was teaching at dance studios, and it was always teaching younger kids, because like kids are the future. Kids are the building blocks of the next generation of society, and they also have there's what's it called? They have that pure joy that children have. They're not weighed down by all the bullshit that we're weighed down by yet. So
that makes such great little artists and actors.
Well, that's it. That's like when anyone that's like anybody that changes the game on anything has been doing it since they were little. Usually, like any mogul or like superstar artist, like not just like the really good ones, but like the superstars, like the Beyoncés. You'll see videos. They were 9. They've been doing this since they were, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can tell when someone's like super amazing, they didn't start at 20.
Yeah.
And then at 25, they're at the top of the game. It's usually
they're an outlier.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Normally it's like a kid. They've been dancing since they were 6. They've been dancing since they were 6. So they've figured out all of the basics and like how their body moves. They've gotten through all that awkward stuff. So by the time they're an adult and in the workforce as a dancer or as an artist or whatever you're doing, now they're just now exploring their potential. They're trying to reach the next stage, and whatever they grew up with that we were like, man, this is the stuff. That is now their baseline.
Yeah.
And so they're now so anything they do now is expanding beyond into greatness. You know, because like because you're an actor, any art form, it's like if there's a pyramid, you've got about half the pyramid is hobbyists. Hobbyists, people that just like it for other reasons, social reasons, or it makes me feel good, or I like performing, but I don't want to do any of the harder work to get to the next level. And then the middle pyramid are people that are mediocre for whatever reason. They don't train enough. They don't have like a gift, or there are other things in their way that are keeping them from achieving that next thing. Or if it's they're not. The 3 things for me, if you're to be successful, is you have to be good at what you do. People need to know you're good at it, and you have to not be a dick to work with.
Yeah,
that's a big one. All of those things are aligned, there's no way nothing will happen.
Yeah.
No way. But if people don't want to work with you, or you're just not booking anything ever, it's one of those things that are off. You're either not good enough for where you're trying to be, or nobody knows you do it because you don't promote yourself, or you don't network, or you're a fucking dick to work with. Like people will rather work with someone less talented, but they're less hassle.
Yes.
Because then you get the job done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if you are a dick, you've got to be like
fucking amazing,
undeniably phenomenal at whatever you're doing, for sure, to get away with it.
Absolutely, and especially and not early in your career either.
Yeah.
Like like if it's like a Christian Bale situation, and it's clear he's amazing, and he's got this long track record that you can count on, and he has like an outburst or whatever. Yeah. Then then people might be more likely to forgive him. But if it's like me and I just have a tirade on set tomorrow, so I was on a podcast and I'm up late and I fucking hate everybody. Where's my trailer? Bring me a trailer, and then it's like never work again.
Yeah, exactly right. I think that outburst was probably unwarranted. But it's weird that you can, when you're in the industry and in that vein of the artistry, you can kind of understand a little bit where it comes from. Like if you're, for the people, who aren't actors and whatnot that might be listening, if you've got to go into a super emotional scene and you need to get yourself to that level, you're trying to get yourself to a heightened state of emotion. Like I know for me, crying is like, it's a really hard thing. It takes so much effort and I may not even be able to get there to get tears. Like it's how I am. I'm working on it, but it is what it is. But if I finally get myself to get there, I might have 1 or 2 takes in me, and then the walls are going to come up and we're going to get nothing. So if you fuck up my 1 or 2 chances at trying to get this scene that we need to get, I'm going to be pissed, and I'm already at a heightened state of emotion because I have to produce that. You know what I mean?
No, you bring up a very good point. You bring up, especially because like there's so many different ways to make a sandwich, so to speak, like as an actor. And I'm learning new ways people do it all the time.
Yeah.
I did a short film with a friend of mine recently, and where we were trying to identify a body at a morgue, and it's meant to be a dark comedy, but she has to cry.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know how you did it, because every take, she would just, and then the tears would come, just like on cue, and she did that for like 6 or 7 takes, and I was so impressed. But the other thing is that I had to be like the comedic relief, because they kept bringing us the wrong body.
Yeah.
And it's because they were white and we were Asian, and they're just like, that was the comedy of it. And so every time they unveiled the body, I had to have a different comedic response, and she had to legit be crying. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it. And she said it was a technique called offloading. Now I don't know exactly how it works, but it was less about pulling up like emotional things that would make you cry, and more about trying to put it, like, offload it onto an external source. See, when I say it, it makes no fucking sense. But it's a thing. Google it. But I was just like, that's incredible. That's because that was kind of the thing that puts me off from doing dramatic work is there's only, I mean, I guess that's for everybody like yourself. It's hard. It's hard to get yourself to that place, surrounded by strangers in this you got to get to this extremely vulnerable space to then act out this scene and stuff like that, which is another reason why I prefer comedy. Yeah. Comedy, you can still have that same level of vulnerability, but without it feeling like vulnerability, if that makes sense. Yeah. When you, like, for example, if let's say like if it's a dramatic scene where I'm meant to be confessing my love to somebody, and then I have to be in that vulnerable state, and there's a number of ways you can do it. The only way I know how is to actually remember a time where my heart's been broken, and try to relive that. And then there's breathing techniques and all sorts of crap you could try. And even then, I'm similar. I'm not great at crying when I'm supposed to because of childhood shit or whatever. Yeah. But with comedy, I can just talk about how awkward and how mortifying and all the sad beta shit I did when I was trying to get over a girlfriend and stuff. And then people laugh. Yeah, and they're laughing with you. Some of them are laughing at it because it's pathetic. Yeah, but it's a very cathartic to just say it and let it out. Yeah.
Well, people identify with it too, because they've had maybe not the exact same thing, but they're like, oh yeah, I've done shit like that.
Yeah, 100%. And I find that, and that's why I prefer that generally, just because it's a win-win. Yeah. I get to offload in that sense. Yeah, people laugh. It ups. They're entertained, which was my goal. But with drama, it's like, I remember one time I had to have a very emotional scene with another actress. We were like kind of like best friending it, and I was just trying to like impart to her that she is worth more than how she's being treated. And I had to really sit there and think about all these things and plan all these things of how I'm gonna, like, what am I substituting at this point, and who am I endowing her as, and all this stuff. It was just so much work for like a 5-minute scene. Yeah. And then I just have to be like I'm exhausted. Yeah. Whereas comedy, like laughter gives you energy.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I never leave a comedy gig feeling exhausted or tired, even if it's a tough room, because you can still pull laughs out of the uncomfortable or the tension. Even if your joke bombs, you can still get a laugh by talking how shitty the joke was.
Yeah.
Or of like, oh, okay, everyone's pulling Hanson fans. Fine. That's fine. You know, like, okay, all right, can't make fun of her. Cool. I'll wait till you leave. Like there's so many ways you can play it. But drama, I think, drama is just a lot more work, and it's just I'm not innately attuned to it, kind of thing. So that's why I find comedy more at home.
It's definitely it's a lot more. I don't want to say it's more fun than doing drama, but I feel like comedy sets are probably more fun because I think you've got a lot more freedom with improvisation and whatnot, and because at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is be funny in whatever whatever scene it is.
Exactly. And for me, I love to laugh. Like that was one of the with my wife, that was one of the main things that tipped me over to be like she's the one is because she makes me laugh.
Yeah,
I'm usually the one making people laugh.
Yeah,
but she makes me laugh, and not like she doesn't make jokes, but she just is a funny person.
Yeah,
she has little quirky things, or she says stuff in a way that, like, when I think about it, the layers of what she's saying or how she's griping about something silly just makes me fucking laugh.
Yeah,
and so similarly, like in the art that I do, I like making people laugh because that makes just laughter in general makes me happy. Yeah. And I'm not knocking drama or anything like that. No. I just know that I'm not as innately skilled at it.
Yeah.
And, like, because we met in the acting space.
Yes.
So that was many years ago.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm not like a conservatory trained actor. I've kind of been, like, like in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you've got Angelina Jolie with like the full proper setup, and you just got Brad Pitt with his one bazooka and his Jeep. Yeah. That's how I feel like as like a dramatic actor. It's like, I'm just piecing it together as I go as best I can.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've had no formal training outside of classes like on a weekly basis.
Yeah, but at the same time, you still work. You know what I mean? Like you're doing your best as long as you're growing. As long as you're growing and making steps toward your craft, then there's no one can talk shit about it. You're trying your best.
Yeah, it's not always great, but I'm trying. we do what we can.
Yeah. I put the shit ones down on my IMDb.
Just, trying to take the credit off. Like I wasn't in that. Oh, stop tagging me.
Yeah. Have you had that yet? Have you had a role just like, oh my god, this is bad?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've had some where I'm just like, oh no.
Or but were you at least happy with your performance, or was it were you also just like, oh my god, I can never tell anyone I did this?
Yeah, I don't watch my stuff. I can't do it.
I'm getting to that point now as well, especially with dramatic stuff.
Yeah,
comedy stuff.
I can watch self tapes. Okay. Like I can watch an audition. I gotta edit it and whatnot to submit. You have to, but like actually watching stuff I've been in, I can't really do it. I really struggle to watch myself. I did watch Boy Swallows Universe. But
dude, you were great in that.
Yeah, thank you. But that's one of the only things I've actually watched, and it's because I was in it for so little, and I was not planning on watching it, but everyone was like, no, it's really good. You just have to watch this series. Like, the series is great. It was great.
That show made me so happy. Not only because it was a good story in Australia, because Australia does not get enough fucking attention.
No, we don't.
There's so much cool shit here, and there's so many talented people here, but also to see so many talented people I know in it.
Yeah. It was excellent.
Like, the guy that was... So you watched the whole series?
Yes. Yeah.
The guy that was bashing his head on the window, trying to get in?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. He's a friend of mine. He's a voiceover guy from Melbourne.
Yeah, nice.
And so when I saw, I was like, oh, Nat. It's Nat.
Yeah.
And then when I saw you with your like Javier Bardem haircut from Old Country with No Men, or was it No Country for Old Men?
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit,
the mullet.
It's going down.
Yeah, it was good. I was a bit fatter then. It was great. It was a fun
time. Shut up, bro.
No, I was.
You can't.
I had so many people going, put a bit of weight on for that one, buddy. It's like, fuck up. Leave me alone. The body shaming. No, it was good. It was really good. My mate Tommy Archer, I had him on one of the episodes. He was on it as well. He had a small speaking part in the newsroom where they were sitting around the table and kind of giving him shit. He was like the office bully.
Oh yeah.
He had like this great line. It was just okay. But it's just the way he delivered it. I actually laughed out loud. I was like, that was perfect. He nailed it. It was great. So it was cool to see, a lot of familiar faces in that. And I think we need to get more Australian content out there.
I think Australians are... So this is the weird thing for me, is that I moved here in 2012. And I don't know if it's because when I was 23, my world was just so small, or within that time, Australians have just kind of not infiltrated, but they've just permeated the kind of pop culture zeitgeist more heavily since then. Because before, I didn't know any of the Australian actors were Australian. Firstly, like Hugh Jackman, any of them, because you don't hear them as Australian.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that they were there. But they're all like, there's all these terms that I've heard you guys say since I moved here, that to my knowledge, Americans never said. And
Why?
all of a sudden, they just are saying them.
Like what?
Like popping into a place.
What? You guys never said that?
Growing up, I never heard someone, you're gonna pop into the store, because it's such a British kind of whimsical term.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm heading to the store. I'm gonna go to the store. Hey, yo, I gotta head to the store real quick. No one's like, I'm going to pop into the store for a moment. It's just such a British sounding, like a lot of British terms, which then filtered to you guys. It's just, there's a whimsy to the terms.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you're popping in somewhere.
Yeah.
And things like that. Or like I'll hear Americans, or even on shows, will be like, oh, how'd you go? Like, how are you going?
Yeah.
Never heard of that. It was usually like, how'd you do?
Yeah.
How was it? But not how'd you go? Because when I first heard that I moved here, I was like, go where?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So it's like little things like that. So part of me wonders if Australians being more prevalent in the media have slowly kind of just altered things. Because perfect example is Bluey. So Bluey is international sensation, made here in Brisbane. Children's animation.
Yeah.
I have a godson back home in the States, in California, and he would say things with an Australian accent.
Yeah.
Because of watching Bluey, because it's terms that they don't use otherwise.
Yeah. Which is like a novelty.
Yeah, or something like So like he'd say things that he's heard before in an American accent, but if it was like, oh no, you all right, mate? He'd just be like that. I'm just like, what the fuck was that? Where'd he hear that? Oh, he's been watching this show Bluey. I think it's from Britain or something. No, it's Australia. It's Brisbane, Australia.
That's fantastic.
It's cool. Yeah. It's cool. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's awesome. Yeah. I think it's just one of those things where it's like one of those Mandela effects. I was like, has this always been like this? Am I fucking crazy?
I reckon it's social media. I think, you look at that sort of 2010 onwards sort of period, social media has been on the rise. I think 2012, like there's a bunch of other statistics, suicides and a bunch of horrible stuff just goes on a spike around 2012. And it's probably due to that, like with the invention of like video in social media and whatnot, and TikTok and Instagram Reels and that kind of stuff, where now the world is able to see people from all over the place and people in Australia posting things that are now popping up on like American feeds. And because it's something different and it's new, like, hey, that's cool.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, because like before, people had no idea what Australia was even like.
Yeah,
they were just like, it's just kangaroos and koalas.
Yeah,
I used to be able to just make up shit. It's like,
oh yeah,
I'd be like, oh yeah, they send mail through with kangaroos now.
Yeah,
and people in the States would be like, oh really? I'm like, no, you idiot. No one does that anywhere. Carrier pigeons aren't even real, kind of.
We used to tell the Yanks we work with overseas, we used to tell them about hoop snakes. It was great. The snakes that they don't slither after you. They bite their tail and they roll after you. Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I got duped with the drop bear thing when I first moved here.
Yes.
Because we were at Jupiter's in the Gold Coast, and my friends, not even by Australians, by other Americans that got here before me.
Yeah.
And I was walking home, and they're like, hey, yo, watch out for the drop bears. And I'm like, what do you mean drop bears? He's like, they're in the tree and they drop. And I'm like, you mean like koalas? And he's just like, yeah. And I go home and I'm walking under a tree and I hear this.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck.
Yeah, you'd be freaking out.
It's the drop bears. And then I told them, and they're like, I told my friends, and they're like, oh, yeah, see, I told you. I learned later that just you guys have giant ass fruit bats.
Yeah. Well, you got giant ass everything here. Fruit bats, snakes. We got, I think that like 9 of the top 10 deadliest species of everything lives here.
Here's the thing, though, is because people are so scared of it. But I'm like, if it's bigger, it's easier to see. And then thusly easier to avoid.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's also things will like leave you alone if you leave them alone.
Yeah, it's the same as working on a set. Don't be a dick. If you don't fuck with it, it's gonna leave you alone. Just leave it be.
And that's why Australians are so chill, because there's less fuck around here.
Yeah.
You know, Americans, you know, we're all about fuck around and find out. And so
yeah.
You know, there's also things are a bit more obvious. Like we've got giant. If it's gonna kill you, it's like it's a bear.
Yeah.
It's a mountain lion. It's a gator.
And they have no chill.
Yeah. And there's no like middle ground. There's no like medium sized bear. It's like all the terrible things are big, and then less terrible things are small, except for like black widow spiders or whatever.
Yeah.
But out here, it's very clear, but it also like it gets exhausting being that scared all the time.
Yeah, to be horrifying.
You eventually learn, okay, well that's fine, and then that's fine. That looks bad, but it's actually fine.
Yeah. I think people think that they're just gonna get off the plane here and die immediately. It's like, relax, bro. We're all fine. Well, you'll be fine.
Exactly. It's not like I just. All right, here's the thing. Sorry, I'm just gonna pivot the conversation just because it's funny. The one thing that always makes me laugh whenever I'm thinking about, I don't know, whenever I'm just having a shit day, I'm just like, you know, flat earthers think Australia is not real.
Yeah.
They think it's South America.
Oh man.
And just a bunch of actors in South America.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't steal this joke, but I have this idea of like, can you just imagine Hugh Jackman getting off the set of Wolverine?
Yeah.
That was a good take, mate. That was a good take. I'm just gonna, you know, go to the loo for a minute, and then he closed the door. Ay, Dios mío.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of doing that accent for so long. Oh,
that's a good Spanish. That's a good Latina. That's great.
Can you just imagine, like Kate, Kate Blanchett, and just all of these just very, very white Australians going in and then just like, I need a taco. Like it's so stupid.
It is. But then flat Earth people are not generally the brightest. It is what it is. It's fine.
I watched the documentary because I want to know why. You know, where is it coming from? You know, so it's similar to like religions or whatever. And I'm like, I can see from their point of view why it makes sense to them.
Yeah.
But it's still rooted in the fact that you can't science.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like you see those, like they're like, I'm going to prove there's no curvature to the Earth by doing this test. Yeah. In which they then proved the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah. But there was something wrong with the cardboard box I used. It's not to spec. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It just, it always makes me feel better.
Yeah. It's funny you talk about science and like people not being able to science. I just listened over the last couple of days to Joe Rogan's episode with Terrence Howard.
That just happened, dude. He's got some, and I think he's got heat on him, or something.
Yeah. He's like saying that math is wrong, and grab whatever you need. Saying that like math's wrong and things that it's nuts. He's like, you know, 1 is not equal, like 1 times 1 can't be 1. It has to be more because multiply means it gets more. And he's like, there's no such thing as 0 essentially outside of like currency. I'm explaining this terribly.
Did he give like an example?
Yeah. He went into super depth. I could hardly keep track of it, to be honest. But it was very interesting. Like everything he was talking about, the way that like, if he's right, physics and the way that we understand the universe completely changes. Like it changes everything.
But what's it based on? Because the funny thing is, I didn't watch that, but I've been hearing a lot of people like tearing him down, saying like, you know, he said he's got a degree in this, but he actually never went to that school and that kind of stuff. So like, it seems like people are trying to discredit him for stuff. He's coming after, like he's trying to sue Robert Downey Jr. or something because he didn't get as much money or something from one of the Iron Man films. Again, don't quote me on that, but there's stuff going on. So it's interesting that that's being said at the same time that he's doing this bid.
Yeah, he was saying that like when it came to Einstein's theory of relativity, that he left stuff out and was like, no, let's just not do that because it'll fuck up my whole theory here. And without that, this all makes complete sense, or some such. I'm not going to even
say how you arrived at that conclusion.
He did, but I'm not going to try and.
All right. I don't know.
I'm a moron. It's worth listening to, though. It is.
But hey,
genuinely interesting.
But to your credit, there's not enough people being able to admit when they don't know shit.
Yeah. Dude, I'm an idiot.
No, same. I feel like that's the first step to not being a fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many people on social media. They're just like, I'm the leader of this. I know all the things. This is, that guy who's like, I'm the king of Miami, prince of cryptocurrency. I'm just like, if you gotta say, it's like saying I'm the janitor and the sanitation. Like, what's the point?
Yeah. Was it the? There's an old saying: lions don't concern themselves with the opinions of sheep. It's like if you're an alpha or you're this big person, you don't need to go around telling everybody that you're.
Oh yeah.
That, you know what I mean? People just know. Like what?
Well, that's it. It's
the second you start saying it, you're proving that you're not.
Or it's like those guys that it's like, I'm not gonna fight him. Yeah. You look at him, I'm not gonna fight him.
He doesn't need to tell you that.
He doesn't need to tell you that he will end your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Or speaking of alphas, have you seen that alpha boot camp?
No. What's this?
Really? Okay, so people are paying, I think, tens of thousands of dollars to go to a boot camp where essentially they just get bullied and physically abused to become an alpha male. They're just like, so the clips are them of like, they'll be like, they're like crawling up a hill in the mud, and then the instructor will just drag them back down and just abuse them. But it sounds like you're just trying to get them to not have feelings. And it's like shitty military training. Like there's no reasoning. They're just trying to tough you up. It's like, tough it out, stop being a pussy.
Well, I suppose it depends what their end state is, because the methodology, if you're not 100% sure on what the end state is, the methodology is going to look weird. So if your aim is to teach someone that they can go further than they think they can go, and to stop being a bitch and stop crying about it, like, we don't care that you're crying. We're going to keep pulling you down the hill until you force yourself to the top. It might suck at that time and it looks stupid, but if it teaches them resilience and it teaches them strength and the ability to, I have emotions, but I need to put these aside to deal with this problem, to get through it, and then I can deal with the emotions later, that would be valuable. But it depends what their end state is and what they're trying to actually achieve.
And I assume, like, for certain, like, military trainings and stuff, you have to be able to do that, because for the work you're doing, that's required. But that's not what's happening here. Yeah. That's not the end goal. It's like, I want to be an alpha male.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we're going to just beat the shit out of you. And it's like someone watched military training.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, we're just going to do this to random dudes.
On the street, whether they sign up or not.
Yeah, they just paid. But dudes are paying money. This is summer camp where essentially that's the whole thing. And the end result is they're somehow tougher. And, like the whole, because the whole ideology about being alpha is like, okay, well, if I will be successful because I'm not taking shit from anybody, and I'm not worrying about my emotions or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that. Even though the whole idea of an alpha has kind of been debunked, like you can be a strong, confident man. Yes. You don't need a specific title to be that.
Yeah. It's a marketing ploy.
Oh, dude. Yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
So what pulled you into acting then? You said you wanted to do that before you even wanted to do dancing. How did you transition into acting then, if you struggle with like the ADHD and then you didn't say dyslexia, but for some reason I thought that. But the ADHD and learning the lines, at what point did you kind of transition to acting then?
Well, I grew up watching movies. I loved like Jim Carrey, Robin Williams. So that was kind of the impetus for me. And I was always performing for my family. Yeah. At family parties and stuff. I had a magic face, magician phase. Then it was impressions. But essentially what it was is the dance thing was always, because I realize now that I've always been about entertaining people. Because when you're a dancer, there's only so many avenues you can go. You could be a career battler, so you're just entering competitions all over the world to be the best. And then from there, you go into like judging or coaching or something.
Yeah.
right? And then, and then, or you could be a choreographer. That's another high paying job. You choreograph for music videos and musical artists and shows and shit.
Yeah.
You could have a residency, like you could create a show. So like the show I was a part of was Jabberwockies in Las Vegas. And so they had a show, like a residency. It was a show that just went similar to like Blue Man Group or Cirque.
Yeah.
Or you could be a serial teacher. You go around, you tour around the world teaching your style of dance to whoever wants to learn it. Ideally, the higher profile, the better. And some people jump around all these things, but usually that's kind of where your career goes. And then, maybe like judging so you think you can dance or some shit.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do any of those. Not one of those things.
Yeah.
And then after I'd done the Vegas show, I was just like, oh, because that's the only thing I ever wanted to do was dance with Jabberwockies, and I did. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what else is there for me now? Because I didn't want to do any of the other things, and there are some people, not any of the Jabberwockies, but there are just people in the dance scene I'd looked up to, and I was like 23, and they were like 33 and doing stuff that I was just like, I don't want to be like that. I didn't want my life to be like that. So I was kind of floating when I was out here. I was kind of floating around for a year or two. I was just like, oh, I don't know what my purpose is or what I'm going to do. And then I was with my wife. My wife was the first person that was like, hey, you do all these, you do funny voices for the kids. Why don't, and they do that there's cartoons. Why don't you look into that? And so then I dove into the voice acting rabbit hole. And it was like, to be a voice actor, you have to be an actor. Skills that are useful are improv. Improv was the cheapest class I could afford at the time, even before the acting space. Big Fork Theater here in Brisbane, they had it was like $80. It was really cheap at the time, $80 for like an 8-week course or something like that, like every Sunday.
What do they teach in improv class? That's something I've never understood, because I'm just like, you just say yes and just run with it and just make shit up.
Yeah.
Like, but what what are they paying for?
Well, that's the whole point is opening yourself up to collaborating with someone else's idea. The idea of yes and is that if we're starting a scene and we've been given, let's say we're at a bank, and then I go, looks like you don't have any money, and then you could then ideally you just say yes and then if you're yes anding the situation, well then what does that mean for you? It's like, oh, okay, well I guess I got to sell one of the kids.
Yeah.
Now you've given me that. Now I have to then go off of shit. Well, lucky for you, we've got a kid. We've got a kid market just behind this door. It's like, oh, okay, so this is the human trafficking bank.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You're just building off, and the fact that it's spontaneous makes it hilarious, and also because the crowd knows it's spontaneous. So that idea, so sometimes the humor comes from both the fact that what we're coming up with and how we've gotten to this kind of outlandish situation from a very innocuous conversation. Yeah. As well as the fact that we know that everyone knows that this is 100% made up on the spot. And sometimes you can see that on the performers' faces.
Yeah. Because they're like, oh, shit. Yeah.
And they're just like, okay, well, lucky for you, we have, So it's just, and for me, that's the fun as well, is that no show is the same. Yeah. If you're in a theater show, you're doing the same set, the same lines, and, maybe you do things to keep it fresh for you. But it's going to be the same thing over and over. When I was dancing in Vegas, there was the same show, 7 days a week, or 7 shows a week, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
The same moves.
Yeah.
And you just, but with improv, it's always fresh and interesting. And then when you combine that with stand-up.
Yeah.
So if you're doing stand-up and say someone heckles you or one of your lines doesn't hit, having improv enables you to keep going, riff off of that. Oh, you didn't think that was funny? Probably because you're all, you hate brown people or whatever.
Yeah.
You just you have places you can go with that, as opposed to just being like next joke, and and then people can feel that.
Yeah, I guess it's something that I've heard of people doing those courses, and I'm like, what are you paying for? What are you learning for? And maybe that's just because, like, me and my friends, that's our humor. Like, the guys at work or whatever, and my friends group that I really get along with the most, someone will say something and we'll have a joke about something, but then everyone's building on it and we're just building bit after bit after bit, and it's just getting more and more ridiculous, but we're cracking up. And I'm like, that just seems natural. I'm like,
it is.
Why would you teach that?
That's the amazing thing about it, is that anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Similar, I mean, like with any art form, anyone can do it starting it, but obviously there's more art and craft to it the higher levels you go. Like, could you and your friends do a 1 hour show that's entertaining for everybody?
Probably not for everyone, but we'd be having a ball. Yeah.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
But that's essentially that's kind of the point. So like higher end improv shows, there usually will be a mix of formats and things.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a couple of formats. I won't get into it here, but essentially the formats are what are establish a kind of framework. So, for example, musical improv is a big thing these days, where they create an entire musical with people that are inventing songs on the spot. The music is improvised, and it all works out, and it still ends up being good. I mean, it's not like Hamilton, but the fact that they're making up songs on the spot that is on rhythm with the music, and it's, you know, if they can actually sing as well, it's actually quite awesome.
Yeah.
And then the story kind of goes from here, and it you know, it's a proper story.
Yeah.
So there's improv has come a long way as well. And so there's lots of different ways you can do it. Obviously there's like theater sports where you're like doing a scene, and then as you're going through the scene, someone will yell change, and then you have to change your choice to something else. So it's like, I need a sandwich. Well, would you like ham? Change. Would you like cheese? Change. Would you like ham cheese? What's ham cheese? And so it's just, there's a lot of ways you can do it, but it's that adaptability is kind of the fun for both people involved.
Yeah, interesting. Is that what kind of pushed you then into stand up?
Yeah.
Like, how did you? Because it's not like they're not. It's not that they're completely mutually exclusive, but they're like acting, dancing, stand up. It's all obviously entertainment, but it's not like they automatically push one towards the other. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'll blame that on ADHD. I think it's just you go where the energy feels right. You go with what you feel like you want to do in the moment, and you feel like, or like being in the creative arts as an ADHD person, you want to do all the things. You know what I mean? So, but stand up was the thing that scared me the most. So actually, I wanted to do that, but I've been putting it off because it just looked the hardest.
Yeah. So
I went through improv to acting, or improv, voiceover, acting, and then eventually stand up. But yeah, I mean, if I had the balls to do stand up straight up, I would have. I'm glad I didn't, because I'm glad I didn't, because I would have burnt out so fast. I would have been so bad. I'm very grateful for the path I did.
Yeah, because you did the course.
I did, yeah. So Fiona McGarry at Sit Down Comedy Club. Every like 3 months, she does a weekend intensive.
Yeah,
and it's not even about writing comedy. It's more about more about the stagecraft and understanding like the industry and how, like the basics. Obviously, she does teach you the basics of how to construct a joke and kind of what are the important aspects of making a joke and what makes something funny. It's not just one thing to be like, hey, vegans, boo. Like, you can't just say that and it's funny. Or just because you say things that make your friends laugh, you have to say things that in a way that make everybody laugh. And that comes, and so the skill comes from like what do you call it? Like the word craft of it, if that makes sense. So
yeah, it's an interesting thing to know that there's a course on it. Like, I'd love to learn that, but it's also
I've been
one of those
telling
things.
you for months.
Yeah, I know.
She does it all the time. And if worst case scenario, if you don't want to do the grad show, then you just don't do it.
Yeah. It's just
I can promise you, because I know you. I can promise you, it will not. Some of the shit I've seen, you knew they weren't going to be funny.
Yeah.
Even they took the course, you just knew they weren't going to be funny. Not at the grad show, at least. But you can, as a performer, after a while, you can kind of get a sense, you can kind of spidey sense who's already at a certain level and who's not. And so, I don't know if it was a bit cocky, but at the time, I felt I was already kind of pretty attuned to it. So my grad set went really well.
Yeah, I saw some of
which
that,
which is good though, because like they kind of they do that on purpose. They want you to have that one first amazing show.
Yeah, so you get a bug for it.
You get that way because you can always have that dragon to chase.
Yeah.
When you have 5 just dog shit eating dick shows. Just like, oh wow, no one liked any of that.
Yeah.
This did really well here, but Ipswich, no.
Yeah. Well, because it's so subjective. Like, there is so many things out that I laugh at that I know so many people are not going to laugh at.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky. I think any art form as well, the hardest part is first you've just got to master the basics, and then it's finding your own voice. It's like what makes, who am I in this space? What makes me, what am I best at? What am I innately like?
Yeah.
And when you're doing a bunch of different art forms at the same time, it's really fucking.
Yeah. How did you find? Have you found that yet, or are you still searching? Or
well, stand-up's the newest thing, and for now it's still just like it's on the side. Voiceover is the main thing.
Yeah, which you're doing well at, killing it.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm glad social media makes it look that way.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, it's just like any like like an actor, you audition a bunch. It's 90% of the time no, and then when you get a yes, like hopefully it's a high paying or a yes that's like, oh, I really wanted to do that, and not just if let's say to speak to reception, press 5. Thank you for calling customer service.
Oh, dude, I don't know how you do it, but all your sounds and everything, like the reels you're putting out of just making sounds for monsters and shit. I can't even. I
love that. Actually.
I can't conceptualialize that. Like I see the picture and I'm like, I got nothing. But you see like 30 different ways you could do it.
I think I don't know. I think with any kind of performance work, it's just remembering to play, especially when you're trying to do it professionally. It's easy to get bogged down in the it's a business.
Yeah.
I'm a what do you call it? I'm a freelancer, I'm a business, I'm a brand.
Yeah.
But if you can remember when the time comes, if you can remember to play, I feel like that's the best way, both for yourself, but also that's because like when you're thinking too much or you're treating it like a job, then your performance takes a hit, in my opinion. Yeah. But when you can play, that's the best. And that's why like creature noises is like a new love that I have. Because it's also, I'm also a very practical person. So it's just such an easy thing. I just make noise until I think, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And then I record it. So I'm working on a new creature demo now. And a lot of it is just noises you make in general, but you just got to focus on that noise and then try to play with the range of it. So like, for example, like a pig noise is like, right?
Yeah.
And then what if you just drew that noise in? And then if you then change the shape of your mouth as you're doing it. Yeah. And all of a sudden you've got a lot of other stuff. And then once you've got the bass, then it's trying to make that sound emotive. Like if this creature, the sound this creature makes, what does it sound like when it's mac? Or what if it's set? Like, or if it's dying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
And so it's like just off that one sound. And then ideally to have more of like a complex creature, it'd be like a mix of different things. Or like I did this one noise where it's just me like in my sinus. It's just
dude.
I'm fucking weird, guys.
Yeah. So I don't come up with that stuff though. Like my brain, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if I could learn it or whether my brain just does not go that way.
If that's the case, then like don't worry about it.
Yeah,
like everyone's got the thing. Like I guess it's more about just. I guess I'm in a very fortunate position where I'm able to, like go where the joy is.
Yeah.
I worked really hard to get to where I am, and my wife and I are in a position where I'm able to have that freedom.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I know not everyone has that, but I think no one's asking, but if I were to give anyone advice, it'd be like, figure out what, like, if like what people tell you is if you could do anything else, do that. Like if you want to be an actor, but if you could do anything else and be happy, do that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, I tried doing something else.
Yeah.
I worked in customer service. I've been a kindy teacher. And there was always a point where I'm just like, I really want to die. Like, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, you know, I don't make as much as I used to or consistently, but it's just who you are. It's something you have to do. It's, you know, I don't want to say it's my purpose. I think if I were to have a purpose, it'd be like, my purpose is just to bring joy to others. But how I do that is through all of these things.
Yeah.
And so, if whatever gets you up in the morning, do that.
Yeah.
I get up in the morning, I kiss my wife, and then I just dive into my office. She's like, oh, like a goblin, or just you know, just making noises, finding auditions, and just trying to remember to play and keep the joy in whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, I like that.
If you can find that, if you can have all your survival needs met, and then just live a life that you're doing that brings you joy, that doesn't hurt anybody else, you've made it. You don't have to retire and then do that. Like, you know, the comedian Jimmy Carr, like for his comedy, he says some like some hardcore stuff. But he's like when you listen to him like on podcasts, he's like, I love the way his brain works. Yeah. But for him, it's like he was saying like having a good life. I'm paraphrasing. Having a good life is like enjoying the passage of time. You know, which I think is great. Like, as long as you're enjoying the journey, you're already having a good life. But some people are forcing themselves to have a shit life, thinking that they'll have a good life at the end by accomplishing a thing. You know, like, oh, if I'm famous, I'll be happy. When I'm rich, I'll be happy. But then why are these rich and famous people all offing themselves? Yeah. Because that's not what it is. Like, you know, studies show that it's about being part of something bigger than yourself, having a support system, and of course, like diet, exercise, and having your like survival needs met. So if you have all that stuff, that's generally those people are happy.
Yeah, man, I feel that. I like that. So I'll give you. I know you got to get out of here. You got some stuff to do. One last question: what's something that you've struggled with? It can be anything. It doesn't have to be super heavy, but something that you've struggled with in your life, and how did you deal with it?
Oh, the easy one was the ADHD. So in COVID, when COVID happened, so I started doing voiceover about 2 years before COVID. And when COVID hit, I lost my job as a kindy teacher because I didn't qualify for job keeper because I wasn't a citizen yet. I am now, Australian. And,
you can't get rid of me now.
Yeah. If you don't like it, too bad. You let me in. Yeah, so I was like, maybe I'll dive in full time, but I've never done admin work. I'm not an admin work person, and when you're a freelancer of any kind, there's a shit ton of admin work. You got to find leads, you got to network and get in front of people that, you know, will give you jobs and create content. You have to do so many things outside of just doing the thing you want to do. 90% work, then 10% the actual voice acting or whatever. And it was really hard. And I was getting really down on myself for not being able to do things that, from my perception, everyone else can just do. They have no problem doing these things. They have no problem sitting down and cranking out 80 emails to potential customers and things like that. I would struggle to focus on just the one. And I had like a mental breakdown, essentially, because I was just so riddled with anxiety of this thing I was really trying to do, but I just couldn't like make any progress. So then from there I went to therapy, and without mentioning it myself, I had my own hunches, but I didn't want to be that guy that self-diagnoses off TikTok. So, but after describing my experience, she was like, well, you ever considered that you might have ADHD? And so from hearing it from her unprompted, I was like, okay, I'll look into it. So I went to a psychiatrist, and they're like, well, you know, look into your history. You know, do you have a history of getting in trouble for not paying attention as a kid? It's not like a blood test they can give you. It's more like behavioral signs kind of thing. And then, yeah, I did. I had a history of like getting in trouble for not paying attention, things like that. I still had good grades though, but that's because the tricky part with diagnosing as well is because if you make it to adulthood without meds or requiring it, usually it's because you've come up with coping mechanisms that will help you get through it. It doesn't make it go away. But also like throughout my life, I've been known as the guy that just like often like, have you ever seen the movie Up?
Yeah.
That theme, da 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 da. People would say that to me when I would like lost focus on the conversation. It would happen all the time. All my dance friends, I would just be like, and it's like, oh, Mikey's up with the balloons, like,
yeah.
And so like all these things clicked in place for me. Why I would struggle to do things, why I couldn't memorize my lines that one time in acting class, why I couldn't. And it's not that I couldn't, it's just when you have ADHD, from my understanding, it's just your brain doesn't innately generate as much dopamine as the average person does that they then use to willingly focus on shit you don't want to do. Whereas we are drawn to things that spark joy immediately. So that's why there's so many people in the creative arts that have ADHD, because they're just chasing the dragon, the thing that gives them joy. And then when you take meds, so I'm on Ritalin now, it I don't know if it gives you a hit of dopamine or if it stimulates the part of your brain that generates dopamine. Either way, it enables you to sit down, pick a thing, and then just do that thing.
Yeah.
And nothing's gonna like halfway through you're gonna be like, oh, you know what? I really gotta make a sandwich. Like, I can have that thought and just be like, no, I'm doing this. Whereas without meds, for me, obviously it's a spectrum, but for me, it kind of goes, all right, I'm just going to type this email. And while I'm typing this email, I'm going to email this company. Their name is Sand Mill Productions. Oh, you know what sounds good? A sandwich. You know what? This is hard. I might go make that sandwich first, then I'll come back to this.
Yeah.
And then while you're down there, while you're doing that thing, and then you make the sandwich. Oh, yeah. I'm down here, so I should probably do some laundry. It's just because the easier thing sparks joy.
Yeah.
Than the harder thing that requires you to have more focus and more like attention and energy. And the fact that you're struggling with it gives you anxiety. So there's this whole cycle. And a lot of people with ADHD have is that you have that struggle and it's a thing that most people don't have a problem with. So then that gives you anxiety. You have negative self-talk. You start getting really low self-esteem. And that all that shit built up to my having a breakdown. And the minute I got on meds, it was like putting glasses on for the first time. It was crazy. Yeah. Everything just felt clear. I just like, oh, I can just sit here and do like, and it's not like I didn't have problems, like, cause I used to work customer service, so I would type emails, but it's like, it's different because you're at work.
Yeah.
You're at a job. You can't leave without getting in trouble. The circumstances are different. When you're at home and you're trying to do freelance stuff, the only person it negatively affects is you if you don't do the thing. There's no one over your back telling you to contact companies and send emails. So it's kind of different. I can understand why people can perceive ADHD as like laziness, but it's kind of like there are lazy people and then ADHD people, and they can arrive to the same conclusion through completely different. It's a completely different pathway. One is like a biochemical thing, and it could be also a bit of laziness. I've been lazy.
Yeah,
but then
we're all having
you know what I mean? And some people think that like maybe that's just how brains are these days. Now all these brains developing with so much more screen time and technological input. Maybe that's the new norm. Statistics are saying it's 1 in 10 people have ADHD. In our friend group of like, it's like 4 couples in our friend group, and each couple has one person that either is diagnosed or is highly suspected, and they tend to be the artistic one, and then the other person is the kind of normal job, level-headed, kind of person. So it's just one of those things. But yeah, it was really hard at first, but it brought up a lot of stuff from my childhood. It was like, if I had only known. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the main struggle I had was kind of realizing how it had affected me previously and how much I was struggling that I didn't want to admit or accept. Because also there's emotional stuff that comes with it. At least for me, it was like things could set you off that shouldn't set off anybody because it's like it's a sudden rush of if it's like a sudden rush of stimuli. For example, like if I'm holding like a basket of laundry, and as I'm coming in the house, if it gets knocked out of my hand suddenly, so it's a sudden change in my routine. It's a loud noise because the thing just slams onto the floor. It's a thing that in my head is like, well, what the fuck? How did that happen? Well, it's, the door didn't come out at you. It must have been you, you fucking idiot. And then all of that in like a split second, that all happens. It's loud, it's annoying, and you hate yourself. Just like, what the fuck? What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Jesus. Like, so all that comes out. But then when I'm on meds, it's fine.
Yeah. But then at the same time, if you'd had those meds when you were younger, you may not be the person you are today because you wouldn't have gone through those experiences that have brought you to this point.
Yeah. I think it doesn't benefit anyone to wonder what if, because we're here now.
Yeah.
It's more about like if I have a kid, and chances are they may have it, that I would want to, because a lot of the things a lot of my baggage, a lot of things that fuck me up that I'm still dealing with is I'm finding now because of that. Yeah. And because my parents weren't, not blaming them, but they just were unaware. And even if they were, they wouldn't know how to deal with it. When I was a kid, I used to cry a lot all the time, drop of a hat. And then one day, I think in like grade 4, it was just, I had this uncontrolled, I got blamed for something that wasn't my fault. And I just started crying because I was so frustrated. And I just couldn't stop. They had to call my parents to pick me up because I was inconsolable.
Yes, could not.
It was just, I never cried that hard. And I still to this day don't know exactly why. But after that, the kids were just calling me crybaby like all the time. After that day, now I can't cry when I'm supposed to. I cry. The only time I cry is when dads die in movies and on my wedding day. Yeah. But like other time where it's like everyone's crying or supposed to cry, my brain just goes, nah, fuck that. But that's what you mean? That's fucked up. That's fucked up. That's not normal. And so again, that's another reason like dramatic stuff. If I have to cry, I am now at a disadvantage. Yeah. And I don't know how to fix that. I don't know if I even really need to or want to, but it's still just like I know where that comes from now. Yeah. And like, and I feel like it's because it could, like when I was a kid, a lot of times I get frustrated because when you're ADHD, your brain, your internal monologue is different. And like even me talking to you now, and I'm sure people watching this I'm a heavy over explainer, and you can't, when you're a kid, you don't have the tools to explain things. So you know, and I'm sure lots of other kids do, but me especially, I would get frustrated because I'm trying to explain something or say how I feel, but people don't have the patience for it. They don't have the patience for how I wanted to say it. So they would cut me off or just interrupt me. And then, growing up in a kind of a strict Asian household at the time, your voice isn't always valued. It's just part of the culture. It's nothing against my parents specifically, but that's just part of the culture sometimes. So it's really tough. And so the frustration is coming from knowing that people aren't going to understand you or care. So you just hold it in and then it spills out. And then, and had I just been, if I had been diagnosed, would that have been different? Would I have been a more emotionally well-adjusted person? I'm doing it right now, and I don't lose sleep over it. But yeah, the meds do essentially enable you to kind of like, it kind of helps you slow things down in your brain. You have the extra resources now to slow things down, think of things more critically and less emotionally in the moment. Because we have the tendency to catastrophize at a moment's notice sometimes with certain things. Everyone's different. But for me, even on the way here, just the fact that I was like, oh, it's an hour away. Well, that's going to throw off my whole, what I had planned. Yeah. Excuse me. So I had to actually kind of sit and like, okay, well, no, it's fine. It's just an extra hour, it's like the same as if I go out for stand up. So I don't have to feel too bad. You know, I have to feel guilty. You know, my wife's fine. She gets it. So it's like, it's all these things, but it's like little things can kind of set you off down that path. But when at least for me, when you're on meds, it gives you just that extra fuel to get through, you know, in the way that I guess the average neurotypical person would. Yeah. If you're also emotionally balanced and stuff. But yeah, that was probably, and that once I figured that out, once I got on meds, and the meds also enabled me to unpack all my shit and set my life off in a way that was conducive for how my brain works, regardless of if I'm on or off meds. So my mental health has just been massively better. I still have my days, especially I'm a people pleaser. I'm a yes man, and I like to overload my plate until it's too late. And so things still happen, but I know that I'm way better equipped for it now. So like if anyone suspects they might have it, it doesn't hurt to just check. Yeah. And even if they say you do have it, you can always be like, nah. Yeah. You know what I mean? But sometimes it just helps to know that if you have a thing, what you could do if you wanted to, you know, see if there was another way to go about it, as opposed to just feeling like, this is me, I'm stuck in this anxiety loop and I just suck as a person, I'm just a broken person. Like, that's how you feel sometimes. Yeah. So it's good to know that there is an answer. Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing that. I think that'll help at least one person listening. Will help minimum one people. Yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff. Thanks for having me. Yeah, dude, it takes a lot to open up and talking about stuff that you really struggle with. I appreciate you trusting me and the randoms listening with your life, man, your life's journey so far. Thank you for joining me this evening. It's been great. Thanks for having me, man. It was fun. Tell everyone where they can find you on your socials. How can they hire you as a VO artist to make weird noises for them? I'm going to try just the two main ones. So you can find me on my website, MikeyJoaquin.com. That's MikeyJoaquin. My voiceover stuff, my motion capture, dance, all that stuff's on there. If you want to find me on socials, it's just Mikey Joaquin, except it's Mykey, because I'm an idiot, and that's what it is now. So MykeyJoaquin on Instagram and Twitter. Excellent. Well, thanks again, man. Thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting with me. Thanks for sharing some of your life. I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Catch you later, everybody.